How are you guys doing?
Good.
I just sent you the research reports, Byron.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. Yeah, I don't think they're downloadable on the site. I'm not sure if
We've phased out that side of our business. We have an actual
Okay.
product now. We're not info products anymore.
Yep.
Okay, so the rough agenda for today's Open Office Hours is figuring out what we're trying to do with analytics and how we're going to instrument it, how we're going to benefit from it, what kind of tracking we need to implement and why. And then we're going to have our guest today, Prabhav from Simple ID, pitch his product, which is a pretty sweet product, so that I think the broader Web3 ecosystem can benefit from not just what we are thinking about analytics, but and communication tools, but also from a privacy perspective, the problem that Prabhav's team is trying to solve. So yeah, this is just an open forum. I'm just going to just go with the flow and then, interrupt me at any point. I'm going to be specifically talking about Safekeep because that is a product that we can instrument and that we can do consumer style analytics and customer engagement. And so I think it's a really good experimental ground, even though it's not our monetizable product and it doesn't have a lot of personally identifying features yet. So we'll go into that in a bit. So first, I'm going to share my screen. But before that, Prabhav, do you want to just introduce yourself? And we'll probably get to the pitch later in the call so that you can fit it against our goals. But yeah, just
sure. Thanks again, Ganesh, for inviting me. So as Ganesh said, we're working on Simple ID. We just graduated Consensus Tachyon Accelerator in February. Simple ID is basically a user engagement and retention product. What we allow Web3 companies to do is to parse blockchain data and set up segments based on interactions on the blockchain and group wallets. And once you group those wallets, you can then send in-app notifications or emails based on the characteristics. So a good example is, give me all my users that have a certain type of asset, let's say an MKR token for Oasis. I want to send them a message saying that, hey, a governance vote is coming up, so you should log on and vote on this proposal at this time. So we allow any Web3 company to basically look for characteristics in the blockchain, create those groups, and then communicate with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense, and I'm very excited for this product. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the call because I think it's a very different perspective that I personally, from a selfish reason, can learn, but also the entire ecosystem can learn. So why don't we just go, take a minute for Byron and Prateek, just introduce yourself so that people know who we are. Byron, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Byron. I'm working on product for Covalent. First month, so kind of still onboarding and getting my feet wet with the product side of things.
I'm Prateek. I have been working with Covalent on the marketing / growth side of things, and pretty excited about today's office hours.
Sweet. Okay, so the agenda for today is I'm going to do a 1-minute walk through Safekeep, what feature sets it has, and then what kind of analytics and why we need analytics to improve our product, and how we can instrument and implement analytics. And then the most important factor is what is known as analytics activation, which is having all these insights is nice, it's cool, creates pretty graphs, but you actually have to launch programs that have that move the needle for you. So that's where a lot of teams drop the ball. And so let's just talk about analytics. So analytics is a broad field. You can have analytics for e-commerce sites, for websites, for products, for sales. So in sales, you have the qualifying criteria, which could be your analytics for your pipeline. For marketing, you have top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, and then people are progressing through the stages. From a customer success or a subscription thing, you can have people who are coming in as a qualified prospect, become a trial user, become a paying user, become a churned user, or they are able to renew their subscription plan. From a product perspective, there are lots of ways to instrument it, and that is what is our focus for today. So the first thing about analytics is that you have to be very careful about what you measure and not really tack on everything that's in the world. And so for that, I find it helpful to have some kind of framework. So there are lots of frameworks out there to instrument your analytics. One framework that I'm very fond of is Dave McClure's AARRR metrics. So it's the pipeline. It stands for acquisition, activation, retention, revenue, referral. So which makes sense because you can only have referral from a customer who's been successful with your product. Otherwise, it just doesn't stick. You can only charge a customer who has retention. Otherwise, the revenue will churn very, very fast. A person will only convert to paying user after they've been activated. So activation is very product specific. In the case of Facebook, what they found is if someone added 7 friends within the first couple of days, then that user is activated. So it's very important to measure that activation step. It's like a phase transition that moves from just some random person kicking the tires to actually engaging with your product and finding value from it. So you need all of these transitionary steps. And of course, all of the marketing programs, all the communication programs have to be tailored towards the stage that the customer is. You know, a person who's paying a paying user, you're not going to say, hey, sign up for a free trial, because that's just, it just paints yourself in a bad picture. So for me personally, I like a spreadsheet. I like spreadsheets because spreadsheet organizes everything. I like Google Docs. You can use Excel. You can use a piece of scratch paper. Doesn't matter. So let's go through roughly how Safekeep works, and then we'll just map out the journey of a potential customer. Keep in mind that Safekeep doesn't have user accounts, doesn't have any monetizable pathways, but this helps us understand what are the pain points that customers would pay for to solve. So it helps with the product planning process as well. And then we'll use Mixpanel as our system of record for analytics. But there are lots of tools out there. There is Heap Analytics, which is also very, very good. There used to be Kiss Metrics, which I was personally a favorite, very fond of that tool. And then there is Amplitude. And then I believe Google Analytics has some of this stuff now. Or you can go take a step back and implement Segment, and then Segment sends it to all of these tools. And at the same time, it also sends it to your database. So if you see on Slack, on the Covalent Slack channel, we have the growth channel. And so every day at 9 a.m., it sends all of the metrics. And that's all coming from our database directly. So I prefer to use SQL and directly instrument it. But if you want drag and drop features, that's also available with any of these front-end tools. So let's go through Safekeep, and then we can talk about some potential product roadmap plans and how we could instrument it and how we can find success. So it's important to figure out what success means as well, because you could have anything as a success metric, and then you'll just be spinning your wheels. So I'm going to share my screen. So this is the Safekeep homepage, and it provides a Google-style interface for your digital assets. So I can go in. I'm going to show you my entire net worth. And then hit next. It asks you to pick the specific protocols. Now, this is a conscious decision on our part, from Safekeep's part, as opposed to how our customers use them. Our customers want to show all of their assets at the same time, and then hide these cards depending on whether they don't have any positions or not. But we've made a decision here for the user to pick specific kind of assets. And the idea here is that maybe tracking more than 5 assets could be a paid premium plan. Maybe, I don't know. But there's no limit here. So I'm just going to try Uniswap version 2, Maker, Compound. Let's just try Maker, Uniswap, and let's say token sets. And then what we have here is a email capture form. And so because Safekeep is a anonymous tool, as in we don't require signups or any of that stuff, there's no way to engage people, like new features and all that stuff. So we've introduced this, and It's optional. And it's important at this step that if you're collecting any user information that we have links to our privacy policy and terms of service. So close that. And so this is the main screen. So we have balances, and then we have all of the protocol tabs. So these are my maker related stuff. And then token sets is it's pretty exciting. I don't think there's a tool out there that does token set P&L. So it shows off all of your accumulated positions, the cost basis, and gets you your profit and loss. So, and then we have transaction activity, and that's it. So we have about a dozen protocols that you can add support to. Every time we add support to a staking protocol, a new protocol, so I think we have Balancer on the cards, we have Ampleforth on the cards, we have 5 staking protocols that are coming, that are shipping this month. Everything will be tabs here, and if you think about this, we can either take the breadth approach, where you do surface level analytics for the different protocols, or you can do the depth approach. And so here, this is the depth approach. So we take a single protocol, fully instrument all of the historical information, and just go max out there, because I think that's where we'll find the value, that's where you'll find the stickiness, and that's where people will really love this kind of thing. And this is basically what only Covalent can do at this stage. So it also showcases the feature sets of Covalent. So this is basically the product. And then we have a sign up form, which is, it's not implemented, so there's nothing there. We can send notifications. We can do that anonymously as well. We can just have a cookie, and that's possible too. But if they clean the cookies or whatever, they will have lost their settings. There's a lot of options here. Something that I'm personally I want to see with this product is a Coinbase style feature, where any transaction, any modifications to any of your assets sends you an email or a push notification or an SMS that something has happened. So on Coinbase, if you deposit, withdraw, it doesn't matter. It sends you an email with the receipt. So I think that would be really, really cool. So I wanna us to build all of those features, but this is basically the product. So we can go back to the front and then map this out with the journey of a customer. So this may be a vanity metric, may not be a vanity metric. You want to see how many eyeballs you're getting on this screen. So just number of page views. So the first step is, do they actually go and engage with the product, right? So do they put in an address and then hit next? But this is still not activated. And then here we have to see if they're tracking, how many services are they tracking. So again, we don't care too much about a specific user. We care about analytics, which means that we care in aggregate, segmented by a traffic source or a campaign or a device. For example, this entire site is not responsive. So the bounce rate on mobile is going to be super high because it just doesn't work. So that doesn't matter. So until we fix that problem, we can't really see any kind of traction on mobile. So here we can track the number of assets there, or a number of protocols they're engaged with, and then click next. So this is the funnel here. If you want, we can figure out if they're in love with our community. I think there needs to be more social proof here. So there's definitely copy improvements we can do here. I think, Byron, this is something that you suggested, so we fixed this. And then here, we can see how many times they are jumping across protocols, and also how deeply are they engaged with every single tab here. So for example, this balances tab has a deeper drill down into a specific asset. So for example, here, this is like, what are the transactions that modified my compound C die? And so you can track all this stuff, which is okay. But again, everything has to be in line with what you're trying to accomplish. And then the actual retention and referral is not built yet, but we can have metrics for those. So if you say you have you want to download CSV, right? That may be a premium feature, maybe. If you have more than, I don't know, 20,000 transactions, that could be a premium feature. Historical data beyond 6 months, that could be a paid feature. I don't know. This is where we have to do customer research and figure out what sticks. And if you just go blindly implement revenue and monetization models on top of this, then it's just going to fail if you don't have the user research. So better to talk to 10 people.
Hey, Ganesh, I have a quick question. So you
Yep.
mentioned something about sending emails based on transactions or changes in their portfolio. Is that why you're collecting the email, or is the email for a newsletter?
Email is for a newsletter.
So how do you plan on sending them the email for if there's any issues with their portfolio? Is that something you want to collect at a later point?
That would be user accounts. That's not implemented yet, but we have plans to have a user account system, a user management system. So you can go create an account and save your wallet. So here right now, if I close my browser, I've lost the state of the wallet that I've added. So I have to go through this full flow each time. And so so these are two different systems. So the email marketing just goes, we use Active Campaign for our marketing automation system. So we have the drip email and all of that stuff. So you get your weekly emails and other campaigns through Active Campaign. That's not related to the user accounts, which we haven't implemented yet. So this is just a tracker today. But I would say, I really want to push hard on a differentiating feature before just adding user accounts. So things we can think about it from a product perspective is that you have a wallet tab, and then you add multiple wallets, maybe your cold wallet, hard wallet, all of those wallets. And then the same tab has another column which tells you what wallet that position is in. So what that means is you can do pivot tables, you can download CSV, you can crunch it across all of your wallets. So it's not just a single wallet, not just ganeshwami.eth. So I think that is where I see a lot of excitement, because the reality today is most of DeFi users are pro users and whale users, because the UX is not there. And I think if you succeed in your vision with Simple ID, you'll be seeing a lot more retail, a lot more novice users, which is what the space needs for it to cross the chasm, right? But today, DeFi, I guarantee you, it's all these sophisticated users, and they don't want you can't just throw a simple product at them. They know how to use Etherscan. They know how to read the API. At least that's what we're seeing. But I guarantee you, in the next 6 months to a year, this is going to change.
Another idea that popped up is with your portfolio performance type of reports, to send those types of information to engage with their users to basically combat the Safekeep. That's just another avenue for you to keep in touch with them, whether that's like weekly or monthly or whatever, so they just have a reason to keep coming back to Safekeep.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, this can be professional or retail. Like any of these people would appreciate that.
Yeah. Lots of ideas that we can think about, and this is why the tracking makes sense, and then having a way to engage with our users. So we do extensive customer studies. So we've open sourced that as well. So with Set Protocol, the way we built Set Protocol is after talking to 10 different traders on Set Protocol on exactly what they want to see, and that's why we built what we built. So that's our approach to product development. So there's a lot of directions we can take this. And of course, we also have to keep in mind that it's not really related to the scope of this call, that our product is really our API. It's our data. And so this is like started out as a demo. And then, from a sales perspective, I believe in this phrase, attract them with a sizzle and then sell them the steak. So this is the sizzle. But what's happening here is that people are finding a lot of value from just the sizzle. So whether they convert to a paid user or not remains to be seen. But these are the fun parts of the journey, right? Okay, so that's basically a preview of what we are doing with Safekeep, and then I'll bring up Mixpanel, and then I'll show you. So we don't have a lot instrumented on Mixpanel, obviously. You can see all these guys are competing. So I have a different tab without any of the ad blockers because I want to see what's going on in this space. So Mixpanel is a really good product. I really like what's going on with Mixpanel, but there are lots of other options. There's Amplitude, there's Pendo, there is, I think Google Analytics has that features as well. And so what we're seeing here is essentially, we only have one event that's instrumented, which is a non-login total, which is that initial box. When you put in a user address, it triggers an event. So this is basically what's going on with that metric. And it's very, very simple. So the way to think about this is you, in your tracking spreadsheet, are you still able to see my screen?
Were you showing Mixpanel?
Yeah, I was showing Mixpanel.
Because
sorry, my bad.
Okay, yeah, because we're not able to say that. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
let me just share my entire screen. I think I just shared my.
I mean, I got the context because I have it open at my end. But,
yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to show our numbers and how bad our tracking is. Some of it is because people have blocked trackers. So, for example, on that other Safekeep browser, you see there's Ghostery, and so it doesn't track myself because I'm very conscious of that stuff, right? I don't like people to track me and then retarget me and all that stuff. I just find it really icky. And I don't mind paying for products, just don't track me. So you can see that we only have one event, which is a non-login total. And what is powerful about Mixpanel is the way the tracking works is you can have a top level event name, and then you can have properties. So some of the properties can be desktop or mobile. It can be the referral source. So if it's coming from one of our campaigns, we can have a referral source there. And then what's powerful about these properties is that you can build pivot tables and pivot charts out of these events. So you can have a non-login total count segmented by referral source. So you can find out, are they coming through our email newsletter? Are they coming through a paid channel? Are they coming through like a press release? It doesn't matter. So that's what you have. And then if you have a time series here, basically you do a second dimensional pivot. Then what you have is a time series data, which is you can, if your time brackets are week, then you can compute week-over-week growth rates. So what you have is a table, which is an event, a timestamp, and a property. And then with two pivots, you can do week-over-week charts and then compare your performance over time along a single dimension. So I think that's really what analytics gets you. So we're extremely simple here. Nothing has been done. I just signed up for Mixpanel and invited you guys. I think this is there's a lot of work to be done here. But you can see literally how it works. You can figure out what kind of charting you want. You can do compared to the past, which would be the week-on-week growth metrics, and then you can divide the segmentation. But it's important to understand the data model on the back end, which is essentially a table with a timestamp, event name, and the properties, and then you're creating pivot tables, and that's what this tool is doing. So as long as you instrument it that way, then you can do the cross joins, then you can do the pivots to really drill down into a specific dimension that helps you grow. So yeah, that's basically what Mixpanel is. I think beyond this, you can have events, you can have cohorts, you can have flows, which is essentially the funnel. So when we go back to Safekeep, we can have the different steps. So you can see here they've already created a session start and a session end event automatically, so which is pretty cool. And there's a non-login. So I'm not exactly sure how trustworthy this data is, because apparently 100% of the people who come to our website try the product, which doesn't make sense. It's never this high. So
we could probably match it with Google Analytics. I mean, and see how, the servers and stuff.
Yeah. So there's that, and then obviously we have the funnels, and then we have retention. So in our case, because we don't have user accounts, we cannot key them on a single user account. So let's say we think about multi-dimensional. Let's say this is Safekeep is a professional tool for teams rather than individual retail users. then what you need to track is on an organization level. So you have an organization that has multiple users, and then you're figuring out the retention rate per organization rather than per user. So I think that's more important. So retention is very simple. If 100 people signed up for your product last week, what percentage of them showed up this week and then the week after? And then you can just do a beautiful cohort chart to figure out what your drop-off rates are. Signal, I don't know what the signal is. Oh, interesting. Okay, so they have like lots of stuff here, which I don't, I'm not very familiar with. I mean, Mixpanel is a 10-year-old program, so it's a very robust program. And so somewhere here they have messages and experiments, which is to re-engage customers with targeted messaging. So this is like intercom style messaging. So you can essentially, Mixpanel becomes your CRM. So you have users and what they've done, and then you can drill down on a very specific cohort of users. So you can say people who signed up in the last 2 months and have added 2 protocols and haven't shown up again. Basically, they've churned or they've slipped away or they're slipping away, and message them and say, hey, we have this special offer. So you see that in e-commerce sites where people add a product to their basket and then abandon the basket, and then they send them a coupon. So it's actually a trick. If you want to get a coupon, add something to your basket and then bounce. And then, in a day or 2, you'll get a coupon saying, hey, come back for us and take this 10% off. And so, yeah, lots of stuff. You can do A/B testing. This is a pretty sophisticated product. They also do the tracking spreadsheet here, so they have that here as well. And then they also have a product to export this data to a database, and then you could run SQL directly against that. And we don't use that feature. We have directly from source, but those Slack numbers, that table that gets printed out every day, that's coming from our raw data source. But that is for our API. So we track our API side completely differently. But for the product, once we had user accounts, once we have more sophisticated analytics, at some point, you want to automate a lot of these reports, and then it makes sense to directly go to source. So yeah, so that's basically it. So I think what Byron, you need to do is figure out, at a later time, essentially what is our major KPI that we want to drive. So if Pratik is responsible for driving that top of the funnel, people, the eyeballs onto the site, what is stopping people from coming to the site and activating, or that first step towards activation? So we have disclaimers there that it's a read-only product. We never ask for private keys, but there's probably something more. Maybe we need testimonials on the bottom, maybe something, I don't know. So there's something there. And don't worry too much about, if it's at 70%, then a 10% improvement gives you 77%. It's not moving the needle, right? I think there are other opportunities. You have to have a holistic view of the entire pipeline, and then figure out what it means for a user to activate. What clicks for them, right? And what makes them say, hey, I love Safekeep. I want to keep coming back to it. As I just kick the tires and okay, this is cool, and then they bounce, right? So that means you don't really have product market fit. So figure out what that activation is. Maybe add 3 or 4 protocols. Maybe, I don't know, or maybe you have to build something there.
I think, yeah, I think a lot ties into what you said initially when you started off, basically getting user feedback. So, I mean, within the product itself, we can have ways wherein we can get feedback. I mean, adding some tools, or we can just have, I mean, the way we've been doing it on, let's say, Telegram or Discord, just have separate channels. But more so, I mean, a product-centric approach would be getting some, let's say, a Qualaroo pop-up or Hotjar pop-up, something like that.
So we have that. So the reason you don't see it is because I have the ad blocker. But that's basically how Prabhav messaged me. So we use Drift on as our live chat system.
Yeah.
And so Drift has a Slack plugin. So if you go to our Covalent Slack, you'll see Prabhav's conversation, and then where he's trying to sell me. I switch around and said, I'll sell you on something, and then let's jump on a call. So it's all public in our Slack channel. So we use Drift for that, but that's exactly right. So the biggest issue here is that we're going after these bigger users. And if you look at the users of Safekeep in our private beta, they like at least our biggest users, they didn't even talk to us before sending our privacy policy through their legal. So they fully vetted our our entire privacy aspect before even talking to us. So we're tracking the top like the top 3 wallets on Instapp are using Safekeep to manage their taxes and all of that stuff, right? But I don't know who these guys are. I know they're tax accountants, but they want to keep their privacy. And we will never track email addresses and that kind of stuff for marketing or cross promotion. That's just not in our, like at the end of the day, this is not our product, right? Our products are API. This is to get more eyeballs, and it's more like a communication tool. So Byron had a chat yesterday where this can be a whale watch kind of system, completely anonymous. Lots of ways we can take this product, but we have to talk to users before we make that decision. So yeah, that's all I have from my side. In terms of actual pipelining, I think Byron and I can sit down with Prateek at a later call and then figure out what it means for a user to activate. Maybe we have to talk to 10 people who really, like I can give you a list of their Twitter handles and WhatsApp handles. I don't know their names. I don't know any of these guys' names. And they're giving me like pretty intense feedback on this product. And they're literally like, the Twitter handle is just like some huge ass big integer. It's just a random number, right? So I don't know who these guys are. It doesn't matter. I don't care, right? So talk to them and it's like, what clicked for you? And then do the activation and then do the retention. The retention, obviously, we are going to have anonymous. So if someone were to go out and clear the cookies, then that would show up as a brand new user. So that would break the retention, but that's okay, right? Are people like, is this something that people like I have a mortgage. How often do I go see my mortgage status? Maybe once a year, maybe once every 5 years. So maybe retention doesn't matter for a product like this. So that's something we have to go back and think about. And then referral. I think we can push for referral before revenue. So revenue is not going to come for at least a few months on this product because I don't know what that looks like. So referral, what can we do to tie in with our entire ecosystem? So we have Hidden Gems, the podcast that's like going on fire. We have our data analytics product that's like growing like crazy. And then we have Safekeep, which, we had so much time out yesterday with all the traffic, all the craziness that went on the front end. So there's like lots going on there. So referral is how do we make these guys excited about the Covalent brand and Safekeep and are getting value and will be champions of our they're part of our community, right? They're part of our, like, that's one of the reasons we're opening this video call, because it's just our family. And so how do we energize them? How do we empower them and make them more and more successful so that it's just a flywheel? So maybe there's a referral plan here. We have a very sweet campaign that Prateek is working on with the referral on the podcast, which we'll talk about at a later time. But there's definitely something we can do there. Also, yesterday we talked about like set protocol. We're the only guys to do token set P&L. Maybe we should do a live AMA with the guys there and then have a referral. I'm already seeing referral codes in the wild. So DYTX, for their exchange, they're passing on referral codes now. So a lot of the traditional affiliate marketing models from Web 2 are starting to flow over to Web 3. But, I think this is a opportunity to take a fresh take and then not just like, do these scammy acai berry style affiliate marketing, which is like, the dark days of black SEO. Okay,
yeah,
so
I liked. Sorry to this thing. So basically, I've been following Simple ID for like quite some time. I've seen like it came to this thing, let's say somewhere around August or September. I don't know, Ganesh, we spoke about this back then. It was about the campaign that you guys did with different folks in the industry. And like you were basically featuring them on each like episode, or I don't know, like basically that was, I mean, a content partnership plays is what I would call. So I love the way you guys did it. So maybe you can talk about that and then see how we can tie that in with the protocols that we've been working.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry to interrupt, but now this is essentially where we're going to pivot the call to Prabhav taking on the stage. So definitely he's going to pitch his product. And so I walked through Mixpanel and I talked through the goals that we have and how we're thinking about analytics. And I think Simple ID can be a direct, problem solution statement, right? So, so that everyone can benefit. Like, this is what we're trying to do, and this is how Simple ID can chip in. And of course, the content partnership is also something that will be pretty sweet to share.
Yeah, no worries. So for the content series, so what we did was, I think I gave Ganesh this overview in our call yesterday. We initially started off trying to build like a super easy authentication tool to allow people to use a Web3 products without even a password, like a magic link type of thing, right? But what we found was just like, there's too much competition in the space with authentication and onboarding. And we realized instead of trying to fight in that space, what we should be trying to do is helping these Web3 apps, once they get the users in the first time, to get them coming back over and over again. So that's where the engagement and retention thing came about. Before we even got to building out our product, what we wanted to do is kind of, test the market and see how the big players have solved the problem. So instead of, us trying to reinvent the wheel, what we did was we said, hey, there's nobody talking about growth and retention in Web3. And there's all these, there's a couple of companies that have had a little bit of escape velocity. So the CryptoKitties, the Bison Turtles, the OpenSeas, right? So they've gotten some sort of product market fit. So the content series was basically around 3 or 4 questions of what did they do to succeed? What tools did they wish they had when they were building their startup? And where do they see the space evolving to? And what we found is, people love to talk about their product, people love to self-promote, and we collated like, I'd say 30 interviews with these different, companies, and we just released it every single day after our launch, or maybe it was to our launch. I don't remember. It's been so long. And then we put that all together in a handbook. So I don't know if you guys see those, like the state of crypto and state of startups type of things that VCs put out. We were like, let's put out the Web3 growth handbook for 2020, and in that it had all these interviews compiled and basically added a little bit of social proof into what we're building, because we were like, we took all these learnings and said, based on this is kind of what Simple ID is built out. So if you are a company that's trying to be like CryptoKitties, or if you're a company that's trying to be like OpenSea, we have some of the tools that they wish they had when they were growing, and you can use us to get to that level. So that was our whole ethos of building that growth series.
Nice.
The other thing I actually wanted to touch upon is what I think Ganesh was talking about with the top 3 Instant App wallets using Safekeep for tracking the portfolio. So let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, I think Ganesh needs to enable that.
Can you try now?
Yeah, I can. Okay. So, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
This is, I was actually just Googling Covalent and seeing what you guys were doing, and I found this article, obviously, great article. I think we should talk further about if you guys are still doing this and how we can plug this in. Before I get too far into the details, let me just kind of give you guys just like a high level overview of what we're thinking with Simple ID. As you guys know, there's like plenty of analytics providers, Covalent being one of them. There's also plugging directly into your own Ether node. We don't want to play in that game because obviously there's people doing it better than us. And then there's also plenty of wallets on the right-hand side, right? There's people that already have mobile wallets and presence in that space. Where we see we can add value is digesting all this information from these different analytics providers, similar to what Segment does, but almost like in a reverse way. Segment takes data from different platforms and sends it to different analytics. We're taking data from different analytics providers and sending it to users' mobile wallets or emails. What we do there is we basically help companies build like insights. So some of the things that Ganesh mentioned of people are coming in, it's anonymous login. We don't really know if, because like the Web 2 traditional way of tracking doesn't make sense because there's a whole set of data that's in the blockchain that you're not able to get from just Mixpen or Amplitude. So what we do is we can do a couple of things. We can monitor their smart contracts. So this is an example dashboard that we built out for Oasis. So one of the things that they were saying is, hey, a lot of people use their smart contract from different front ends. One way is through Oasis. Some people open CDPs from Kyber, Instadap, or whatever. We want to know where they're opening those CDPs from. So that's the kind of data that we can generate here for them to then take good decisions on it. And once they build out this type of data, they can also create segments on it. So let me just jump over to our tool. So one of the things that we do is with segments, what we can say is, give me users that have taken part in some smart contracts. So we can put in the smart contract transactions here. So let me just go to Oasis. Sorry. Trade. Go all the way down here. You can get the contract from Oasis. Sorry, let me move this here. Oh, right here. And you can basically paste that in. You can also do like and or filters. So you can say, okay, everybody that's taking part in that smart contract, now give me all the users that have a wallet balance of more than 10 ETH because I want to contact them for some feature. So once you do that, what it does is it creates these types of segments for you. You can also display that on the dashboard. But more importantly, what you can do is you can set up an in-app notification. So this is a dynamic notification that will show up on Oasis Trade without the developers of Oasis having to change the product every time they need to change a notification. Like a great example is when the side-to-die transition happened, right? A new user would log in with MetaMask and they would see that and they're like, dude, I don't have any SAI. Why are you showing me this random notification? So that kind of trains users to almost ignore those notifications because they're not useful. What we're doing is giving them a power to send tailored notifications that make sense based on the blockchain transactions. And the final part, which affects what Ganesh is talking about, is emails, right? The point that you brought up and the point that we found from talking to these customers is there's this stigma in Web3 of trying to connect wallet address to a real world identity. Most people have, like, for example, Ganesh has Ganesh at Covalent, right? If you have his like wallet address, you're like, oh, I know who this guy is. I can do some basic Googling and find out that this person has 10,000 ETH in their wallet. So they don't want to connect an email address to that. And another thing is you can't expect them to use a totally different email service for getting notifications about their product. Because usually people have one email service that they use and they want everything sent to that. So you don't want the end user taking on this burden, right? So that's where we developed is cryptographic isolation. So what we do here is what Covalent can collect that email for the wallet address and pass it on to Simple ID. And with the method of cryptographic isolation, what we have done is neither Covalent nor Simple ID can ever match those two pieces of information. So here's a quick block diagram where email comes in and there's an encrypted UUID assigned to that email address. And vice versa, there's a wallet address to encrypted UUID here. That UUID can only be decrypted through this dashboard that only our customers can log in. And they get the keys from an Amazon HSM service, so hardware secure module. So Simple ID can never make that mapping to the wallet to email. And Covalent can never make that mapping either, but most importantly, Covalent can then email those people as necessary. So whether that be this, liquidation, or whether that be, hey, your portfolio needs to be updated, you can still engage with those users by maintaining the privacy. That's the premise of Simple ID. We want to make sure that in Web3, We don't do the creepy things that Google and Facebook do, but there's this plethora of information on the blockchain that, as you guys are indexing, that Web3 apps should be using to smartly engage with their users. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So I actually want to add to that, if you look at the regulations that are rolling out across the world, starting with GDPR in Europe and the California privacy protection laws, having access to that joint table between your email addresses and your wallet is actually a liability, because everyone says data is the new oil, data is the asset. It's actually being flipped on its head. Having access to that thing is a liability. If you're not deleting, you're not cleaning out those email addresses properly, you have huge fines on the horizon for you. So as a company, you don't even want to take on that liability. So going with a system like Simple ID is future-proofing your business in a way.
Yeah, the way we look at it is we call it a two-subpoena system. So if the government or anybody wanted to get that mapping, they would have to subpoena us and, like, for example, Maker or whoever is using the front end, because they need two encryption keys to ever put those pieces of information together.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I think that's basically it from our side. Anything else you guys want to add? Questions?
I'm good on my side.
Yeah, all good. My side too.
All right, Prabhav. So thank you so much for your time. I think I definitely learned a lot. I'm sure the rest of the team also learned a lot. It's very cool what you're trying to build, and I think it's extremely important going forward. And so what we'll do in terms of next steps is once this is transcoded, upload to our YouTube channel, and then push it out through our newsletter and Twitter. But this is yeah, this is awesome. I learned a lot. I'm sure the other guys can attest to that.
Likewise, thanks again for inviting me too.
Yeah. Okay, cheers, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye.
Cheers. Thanks. Yeah, bye.